In my online school and community of Learning to Love You, we're learning all things boundaries in week 4, which is on Saturday. And boundaries is what you define as your edge or your limitation. And this can be for different entities and concepts, but my favorite one is talking about what our emotional and relationship boundaries look like. And a boundary is what you define as acceptable and what you don't define as acceptable. And they usually come from your core beliefs. For me, when learning all about things that I needed for myself and what boundaries that included, I didn't really know what they were to create. So a big one for us is just first reflect on what your values are. Who are you at your core? When you're having conversations and interactions, assess how you feel. How's your comfort level feel with that person? Do you feel like drained when you finish with them? Do you feel like uplifted when you've interacted with them? Consider what your needs are within that space. Sometimes we say yes a lot because of what others need rather than what our own personal needs are. We also then must recognize what overstepping is in those spaces. So if that person then oversteps that boundary, how do we communicate that with them honestly? And a big part of it is just experimenting and playing around with what works for you. So how do we know when our boundaries are actually being overstepped? So there's a couple of little things that I have a list here of. So first is you feel overwhelmed, you feel tired, anxious. You might have resentment towards that person because you couldn't actually communicate what you wanted. You might begin to lose parts of yourself in those spaces. So you'll be people pleasing, doing things for others that may not resonate for yourself. You might find yourself constantly saying yes. You might feel disregarded. You might feel like they're intruding in your space. You might have trouble really expressing how you actually feel because they keep overstepping those boundaries. All of this leads to, majority of the time, emotional exhaustion. And it is really important that you understand where that pull comes from. And a lot of the time it comes back to our false beliefs, which we learn all in week 1. And a big one of it is setting boundaries might be selfish, that you should be available to everybody. If you put a boundary in place, that the person will leave you. If you don't have a boundary, that you don't deserve happiness. Play with these things, understand where it comes from so you can unravel those pieces, so you can put better boundaries in place, which then create better relationships. A boundary is you openly communicating how you feel.